Hey everyone, welcome back. Icon here. Thanks for checking out another episode of Esports Analysis. Today, we are hopping on board as the Florida Mutineers are playing a hardpoint match against the New York Subliners. So, very interested to tune back into this. One thing that really interests me is the fact that Florida played just a couple days ago, right? Today's only Tuesday. They just got done playing on Sunday, and they're already back. They're already grinding, and they're getting to work. So, that's something that I can absolutely appreciate, that they're not taking any time off. They're really just grinding, trying to get better and better. As we get into the strategy here, one thing that I will say is that in the top right-hand corner, right above my head, you can see that there is a mini-map. So on that, I'm going to try to draw that. At the moment, you can see that Florida has already flipped spawns. Now, this is a little bit more difficult to see just because of the fact that when you're watching an actual match, you can see the codcaster, and in this one, you really can't. So I'm going to pause this just for a second so you guys can tell exactly what's going on. But again, drawing on the minimap, to start here, Florida got this spawn, and then essentially they've just pushed through. So we are watching Frosty's point of view at the moment, and Frosty was the person that worked his way over through P4, and he was coming around this way while they sent a couple resources towards middle, and then they also had somebody go on the right-hand flank over here trying to flip. When Frosty went down, he spawned right here by P2. So now that he's coming up, his only main objective here is that he's going over here and he's watching the entrance from Cave West and mid-map. So he's just kind of hanging out right in this area, and he's just waiting for anybody that could potentially push through right there, and that's mainly his job. So as we're watching this, again, you can see exactly where he's looking. He's looking at that mid-cut, going to where P1 would be, and he's watching the long flank all the way around over by P4. So in terms of strategy, one thing that I'll also say is that this is a really nice job for Florida because they didn't have the initial spawns. They were able to flip, and they didn't give up too much time, right? So a lot of teams, what happens is that if you don't get the beneficial spawn on P1, then they try to put way too many resources towards trying to flip spawns. And when that happens, they forget about all the time that's inside P1, inside that current hill. So even if you are able to flip, what ends up happening is, well, okay, you're able to flip, but you end up giving up 35 points on P1, and the ability or the chances that you're able to make that up on P2 just aren't that high, right? If it's a map like this where the spawns are pretty sticky, I guess it would be possible. But as we're watching this, you can see that the first 30 seconds or so Florida got, and after that, there's been nobody in the hill. So from like 30 seconds on, nobody has really gotten that time. So a little bit of an odd play there, but that's just what is happening at the moment. As we rotate from P2 to P3, one thing that I'll say is that New York is in the current hardpoint, but I don't like the fact that New York isn't worked out into the choke points, into the cuts at all. So again, minimap, if we're going to go ahead and we're going to explain this, right now, inside of P3, New York is in here. And then Florida, when they were leaving P2, there's a few ways that they can get out, right? You saw a couple trying to go over towards this outside lane by P5. You can work through the middle, and now this has kind of progressed a little bit, so the strategy on this map, but a lot of people are sending people over towards P4, and the whole reason being is that if you can coordinate a push here, not only would you have spawns for P4, but you can pinch here. We saw Arcides be very successful on that over the weekend at CDL Atlanta. He had a really nice pinch doing this same exact play. But one thing, so the whole point of this, one thing that I was saying is that if you are New York, then the way that you defend P3 is you have people up here in this top stone area. You have people up here into P1 to watch this route right here. So the more that you can get kills in these areas right here as it rotates from P2 to P3, that's really how you max out the time in P3. So they did a decent job of that, as you can tell by the score in the bottom left-hand corner. So they were down by, it was like 20 or 30 points as it rotated from P2 to P3. But now they've been able to really get a lot of points in P3. And now as it's rotated over towards P4, they're also inside there. So far, as we're through about 4 hills, New York is doing a really nice job of holding down these locations. And with only 18 seconds left, I'm not sure that I really love the fact that Florida was still pushing that last hill. Now, I know everybody wasn't, so you can see as he comes up off spawn, as Frosty comes up off spawn, he spawned over by P5. He's going to be able to get the time that's inside the current hill. And right now I'm watching the mini-map in the top left-hand corner, so just kind of let me show you right there what I'm talking about. So again, mini-map bottom left-hand, or bottom top left-hand corner. Sorry, I couldn't say that for a second. But I'm drawing on the actual screen right now, and you can see that this is P5. If we don't have the map overview like we do in the normal, when we're watching the matches, then we can only really get information from that mini map. So there are 2 routes that he can be flanked from, which is right here and right there. So again, on the mini map above my head, it's this route here and this route there. So those are the 2 routes. And what I'm looking at is, if you're a player that's playing this match at the moment, you see 1 blue arrow right here and you see 1 blue arrow right there. So what that tells him is that this arrow that's on the left-hand side that's pushed out probably has his left side flank. This arrow that's over here, and I know there's a lot of arrows going on, but this arrow that's up here is watching the cave. So what I'm going to be taking away from this, if I'm the player inside the hill, that if there's one thing I have to watch my back flank. And that's exactly where he's looking, because the left of him is locked down, behind him is locked down over on the flank route over there. So now he just has to get what's coming through this mid. And then again, as his teammates come up off spawns, they're going to rotate into this lane so that now he doesn't have to watch that anymore. He could kind of double up, turn around on this flank route over to his left. So in terms of the actual strategy, that's what's going on at the moment. That's why you're seeing him look that way. Again, I'm watching the minimap top left-hand corner. As his teammates come off spawn, they really do have to get to that middle flank route. And you just saw in the minimap, you just saw somebody spawn out. So it looks like they're about to give up that back spawn. So right now, they're continuing to get points. There are 35 seconds left in this current hill. I'm just not sure if they're going to be able to get any more time on this current hardpoint, just because of the fact that they gave up that back spawn. So New York was successful in doing a 5-man push through cave. And now, once Frosty went down in the hill, he's spawning mid-map. So I'm actually kind of surprised that they're still getting these points inside the current hill. I don't know what New York is doing. I don't know if New York is really just trying to guard against being flipped again. But if I'm New York, I have spawns. I have to hit that really hard so that I can get those last 25, 30 seconds, because now Florida was able to mount a pretty nice comeback there coming back. So as we head back to P1 here, this is essentially, we've already talked about the strategy and everything. So again, if you're Florida, you're going to look to push out these spawns so that you have spawns as it goes and rotates from P1 to P2. So with that, what I'm going to do, the nice thing that I love about scrims is that we can listen into exactly what they're saying. So with that, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to turn up the volume for you guys. I'm still going to be able to make comments here and there on important things that I see, but I really want to hear what they're talking about and what their strategy is. So with that, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to turn up the volume, and let's listen in and hear exactly what they're thinking going forward.
Zero's P5. Yo, 2P5, 2P5 right now, 2P5, 2P5.
He's on your yellow right now.
We can just hit front.
I'm winning yellow.
Yeah,
I'm trying to kill fences.
broken dead. One shot,
And just real quick, that's another mistake by New York. Yes, they were able to hold down spawns for P2, but they gave up 40 points in P1. So even if you're able to get 40, 50 points in P2, it's a wash because you gave up so many points in P1 and you didn't really contest there.
On, weak in the back. I'm one shot in hell. I might die. I'm dead in hell. Yeah. Literally just took your kills and then hop.
I'll get time.
So chance hold that chance.
So see, as we're watching this, I get what New York was trying to do. They really wanted to hold down that spawn, but if you're not able to slay out, you have to contest P1. You can't give up all that time. And now that they sold out for P2, they're not getting the majority of the time in P2 either. So in terms of Florida, Florida's doing a fantastic job of capitalizing on those last few seconds in P5, of getting the majority of the time in P4, and essentially, I would say that they probably split that time in P2.
I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
I'm looking under pass.
I'm stunning over him.
And now if I'm watching the minimap in the top left-hand corner, you can see exactly what they're trying to do. So this is the setup that you want to have. So if I pause it just for a second, this is exactly what I was saying the first time through. So if I look at the minimap, again, top left-hand corner, not the minimap that I have on screen, but his actual minimap, you can see that this arrow right here is locking down this right flank lane. You can see that this arrow right here is watching mid-map. And you can see that this arrow that's top rugs is splitting between watching mid-map and watching this cut. So how do you prevent the enemy team from getting into P3? If they have the spawns for P2, then you just get into those choke points and you don't allow them to rush forward. And that's what they're doing a fantastic job of right now. You can see that right now Frosty is sitting in hill and the kill feed, so Mox just got 2. And I think that was Skies that just got 1. Havoc just killed another one. So all these people are getting kills, and all that's doing is that now there's been 30 seconds off of the timer for P3, and they've gotten all of it.
Alright, I got you.
It's a cheeky little jump up there. I'm not sure I've ever seen that jump up before that Frosty just did.
Yo, push the back, guys.
You're dead.
Right, just stay alive front.
Yeah, I'm trying.
I'm still spawning out. Yeah, I'm leaving spiral. Yeah, I'm leaving spiral. Brad, play your life, Brad.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah, we flipped.
I'm gonna repinch block. I'm gonna repinch.
I'm going out.
One thing that I will say is that as this is about to rotate from P3 to P4, you can see that New York has the spawns that you want to have as it rotates here. So right now, Florida's going to try to push through Cave East and get through those choke points by B-Dom so that they can get to Cave West. But I think that's probably going to be pretty hard to do. So at this point in time, you can see that Frosty's just holding down mid-map because you don't want this to snowball, right? If you're going to give up the majority of the points inside of P4, even though they're not right now. So again, I'm not sure if New York just isn't doing the slaying or what, but right now they're not set up. Florida's not set up to be getting this time inside of P4, and they are. So this is exactly what Frosty was trying to do. Frosty's just trying to kill anybody that's trying to leak out because you don't want that to snowball. You don't want to give up all the time in P4 and then also give up the time here in P5. So they're doing, this is just a fantastic job. My guess would be with only 14 seconds left that they're probably going to end up winning off of this P5 hill.
I killed one front.
Just stay out.
Okay.
Yo, yell at me.
I'm blocking the back, Brad.
I'm just gonna get time. I got time.
The only thing right now that Florida doesn't have is they don't have anybody pushed up on this left-hand flank. So if New York was to send 2 or 3 people down this left-hand side, there wouldn't be anybody to control that push. But Skies with 2 in the kill feed, Havoc with 1, Mox got another. I don't, just in terms of the slaying department, I don't really see them getting anywhere close to this P5. It has to end up here.
Yeah. They needed it.
I'm low.
I killed one front. Two more. Another one done, dead. Another one front. Good job.
They need 3 more seconds, and you have to think it would come there. Yeah, so overall, I don't know. That was a little odd for me because it just seemed like there were a lot of hills where they weren't in position to get the amount of time that they were getting, and they ended up doing it. So, like on that second set of rotations, they were spawning out in P2. They were able to push forward, get the kills, get the majority of the time. As it went from P2 to P3, they rotated over. They were able to get kills in those choke points. As we can see, Havoc just dropped 30. Frosty only had 21, but he had a minute 25 inside the hill. So yeah, that was just a fantastic job there by them of being able to get points inside the hard point when they weren't originally set up there to do so. So great job out of Florida. Hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it a ton. If you have any comments whatsoever, put them down below. I love the interactions and talking with you guys. And last but not least, throw a like on the video. And with that, we'll see you guys next time.